Alright, good day everyone. So today we're gonna tackle about transfer of learning. So it is all about how what we learn in one situation affects how we learn and do things in other situation. So what is transfer of learning? So transfer of learning is the process of taking what we've learned in one place and applying it to something else. It's like taking a tool from your toolbox and using it in a different way. So, imagine you're planning to ride a bike. You've mastered balancing, steering, and pedaling. Now, you decide to try skateboarding. So, you might notice that the skills you learned on your bike, like balancing and coordinating your movements, actually make it easier to learn skateboarding. So that's the power of transfer of learning. So there are types of transfer. So transfer can work in different ways. So first we have the positive transfer. So think of it as a helpful boost. When learning in one situation make it easier to learn something else, we call that positive transfer. So for example, if you know how to play the piano, you might find it easier to learn to play the guitar because both instruments share some basic musical theory. So it's like having a head start. You already understand how to read music, how to use your fingers to play chords, and the basic of rhythm and melody. So these skills transfer seamlessly to the guitar, making the learning process smoother. So the information or your knowledge or skills is being transferred in a positive way that provide you a good impact. So next we have the negative transfer. Sometimes learning in one situation can actually make it harder to learn something else. So this is negative transfer. So think of learning to drive on the left side of the road. So then going to the country where they drive on the right. So that might cause some confusions, or it might cause accidents. So your brain has gotten used to a certain pattern, like you will go to the left side of the road, and trying to switch that pattern can be difficult. So it can lead to mistakes and slower learning. So it can give negative impact or negative feedback for the transfer of learning. So we can also think about transfer in terms of how similar the two situations are. So the third types of transfer is the near transfer or the specific transfer. So this is when learning in one situation helps you learn something very similar. So for example, if you learned how to solve multiplication problems with small numbers, it will probably be easier to solve problems with larger numbers because the same rules apply. So they are very similar, so you can easily adapt your past knowledge to the new situation. So it's like learning to add small numbers and then using that skill to add larger numbers. So you've grasped the fundamental concept of multiplication, so applying it to larger numbers is a natural progression. So next is the far transfer or the general transfer. So this is when learning in one situation helps you learn something that seems very different. So the transfer of information that is different from each other. So the situation is different, and yet there is a transfer of learning that occur. So for example, if you learned how to write a persuasive essay. So you might find those skills helpful when writing a strong resume, even though these seem different. So writing a resume and a persuasive essay is very different, but there is transfer of learning that occur because it is like learning to write a story and then using those writing skills to create a report. So the ability to organize your thoughts, present arguments clearly, and use language effectively are transferable skills that can be applied to different writing tasks. So it is very different, but still your writing skills is being used in a new situation. So that is also called transfer. So now we will gonna tackle about the key factors that influence transfer. So here are some key things that can make it more likely that learning will transfer from one situation to another. So first we have the meaningfulness or the relevance of the information. So learning is more likely to transfer if it's meaningful and relevant to you. So for example, if you learn about how to budget your money and it helps you manage your allowance, you're more likely to remember and apply those skills. It's like learning how to bake a cake and then using that knowledge to bake cookies. So when you see a direct connection between what you learn and how it impacts your life, it becomes more meaningful and you're more likely to retain and apply it. So that is meaningfulness or relevance. So next we have the practice. So the more you practice, the more likely you are to transfer what you have learned. So it's, for example, it's like learning to play a song on the guitar and then practicing it over and over until you can play it flawlessly. So repetition really helps. So consistent practice strengthens the neural pathways in your brain, making those skills more automatic and easier to apply in different situations. So practice is one of the key factors that can influence transfer. So next we have the variety. So exposure to different examples and practice opportunities encourages transfer. So if you want to learn about different types of plants, then you must get hands-on experiences through field trips and experiments. It can help you remember more than just reading about them in a book. So experiencing or experimenting on something can make you more likely to understand or transfer the information than just like reading about them. So it's like learning about different animals by watching videos, reading books, and visiting the zoo. So the more diverse your learning experiences are, the more likely you are to see the connections between concepts and apply them to new situations. So you have seen different learning experiences. Therefore, you can know that you can transfer the information to the new situation because you have different or diverse experiences. The last key features of influencing transfer is the metacognition. So metacognition is being aware of your own learning process and thinking about how it connects to other things you know can make a big difference. So it's like thinking about how learning to ride a bike relates to learning to skate. So connection dots. So by consciously reflecting on your learning, you can identify patterns, connections, and strategies that can be applied to new situations. So it can enhance your ability to transfer knowledge. So thinking about thinking can enhance your ability to transfer your knowledge to a new situation. So that is the four key factors that influence transfer. So remember, understanding and applying these principles of transfer of learning can help you learn more effectively and apply your knowledge in a wider range of situations. Like it's like having a superpower that allows you to use what you've learned in new and exciting ways. So that's all about the transfer of learning. Thank you and God bless.